Quite oversold in Ethereum and Bitcoin. We seem to have formed somewhat of a bottom. We can see here on our 4-hour chart, this is a log chart, we stretched that rubber band out real low over here with our MACD, and we've started to come back into the loop ever since. I'm going to shift back to our short-term view. And before I continue, as I've started doing, I have started providing the links to my charts in the description below, so be sure to check those out. On this picture, you can kind of see ever since our last update, we had a slightly lower low. I think where was it? We were right at 29.37. That's about where the low has stricken. And it went slightly lower than our 2.0 extension of what I was calling the first wave. But we didn't break our major support, which is clearly depicted with this thick red line here. That's a major support. And if we broke that, definitely I'd have some alarm bells going off. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a black and white thing. Just breaking that wouldn't be enough. We'd have to break convincingly down below this support for me to panic sell, or in this case, not really panic, but sell with the plan ahead of time. So we didn't see that, and we've turned back around. We're seeing similar in Bitcoin as well. We've exact same shape. We actually didn't extend that much lower than than the last update that we had. So as a matter of fact, we didn't extend quite as low as I would have liked to have seen for this to be a complete impulse, but it's low enough that in Bitcoin, we can call our pattern possibly a leading diagonal for our wave one down. So shifting back to Ethereum, we hit our purple box. That was where we would have expected a pullback to happen. And when we take a closer look, this may be 5 up off the low and 3 down. This definitely looks like a corrective down. So we may already have a small first wave or an A wave in place. So what will that mean for us? Well, obviously in the short term, near term, this is a very bullish thing. You guys may recall, I expect to see a larger wave 2 bounce before we're ready to continue any lower. So shifting back to this big picture, I'm going to zoom up a little bit. Our primary expectation as of our last update is that we are in the red pattern. That is my primary, which calls for this whole thing being a 5-wave impulse down, or in this case, a diagonal down for Ethereum. Same exact thing goes for Bitcoin. If this really is a first wave down, we should expect to see a 3-wave correction back up. That would be the wave 2. And typically in a corrective wave, the wave 2 is very deep, it's sharp, so you could see one hell of a dead cat bounce on this. And that is where I'm marking with the point of gentleman's exit. The same goes for Bitcoin as well as Ethereum. After that point, we'd have to see some impulsive action down to more or less confirm that we are falling lower for our 3rd wave, and then eventually a 4th and a 5th wave. So that's what we're looking at. But markets don't move linearly. They don't move directly. Typically, you see some whipsaw. So we would expect to see an A wave bounce up, B wave bounce down, and then a final C wave up. And if that C wave looks impulsive, if we have a 5-wave impulse or ending diagonal structure, that would be a very good sign that we are topping correctively and we're about to keel over and fall off the cliffside. So that's what we're looking at with Ethereum. Now, A waves are, by the textbook, they can be impulsive or they can be corrective. So either 5 or 3 waves. Most of the corrective wave, most of the A waves I've seen are 3 waves. So if this is to be assumed as what's actually happening, we have a nice deep retrace. This could be an A. We may have a B in place. And based on this Fibonacci extension here, we would be projecting somewhere between 35, 33, and possibly as high as maybe 3,800 range for just the A wave alone, which would make sense. So this could be an A, B, C that is forming for our A wave. I'm actually going to shift this thing over to make it more appropriately spaced. B wave would obviously be a sharp correction back down. Could be a triangle, could be a number of things. So if we see that, you have a corrective wave up, that could be the entire 2nd wave. So we'd have to stay on our heels on this thing. That might be all the bounce we get. This whole thing would basically look like a 2nd wave up. We may start crashing after that. But my primary expectation is that we do bounce up to this range in the 3,800 range and then come back down for a B wave in corrective manner. So it'd be a 3-wave down or maybe a 5-wave triangle, something like that, before we rocket back off. And, that's where everyone get excited again about cryptos coming back. And that would be the most dangerous point at which you guys will be equipped to know that, hey, this is a very bearish pattern before things turn back around. So the other thing I'd like to note is that if we see something like that, it could actually start resembling a bit of a head and shoulders pattern. So for you TA guys out there, in EW, we do have an explanation from our perspective on what a head and shoulders pattern is. And this is actually a classic formation of that. I'm shifting back to the long-term chart, but you might have a 3rd wave, 4th wave, and 5th wave, and then we have a correction. Your A wave pullback will often be the the neckline, and then you go back up. That would be the top of the shoulder, and then you have a final finishing crash. That would be the, I guess in this case, the left arm. If you're looking at it from the front as if this were the head. So one shoulder, head, and then we are trying to carve out one more shoulder. So again, I'm just using some TA speak because this would look very much like your textbook TA head and shoulders pattern. Now, what am I projecting this wave to go based on what we have so far? Well, if I'm expecting 3,800-ish for the smaller A wave, based on A equals C equivalents, I have another fib tool built out here. So if we get up to about 3,800 for that, have a standard 30% retrace for our B wave, that could put us anywhere from 43.73 all the way up to 4,700 or so. I'd probably lean more towards the 4,300 range. That's about where I would expect to see the completion of our wave 2 if we're to see that. So again, no reason to panic right now. Don't go crazy selling it unless you need to spend that money on something else or you're planning to buy some other investment with it. We're not panicking yet. Red pattern is primary. I'm leaning about 70% towards the red pattern. Doesn't mean that the blue pattern is dead. The blue pattern is the alternate bullish pattern in which we actually have we have an invalidator wave 2 here. So our 1-2. If that's the case, we have a 1-2, and then we need to see 5 waves up through our all-time high. So our all-time high sits right around 48.68. So we need to see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a 3-wave pattern down. If that happens, the red pattern is dead instantly. There's no more red pattern. So again, it's not dead. It could certainly happen. It looks more plausible in Bitcoin than in Ethereum, because in Bitcoin, the fib ratios are such that this actually could be the top of the one wave itself. So this could be a third, fourth, and a fifth. Ethereum, the proportions are a little different, but if Bitcoin does that, there's a chance that this was the 4th wave and that is the top of the 1st wave. So either way you cut it, you got to keep our eyes open. I don't expect any immediate term downside. Look for that bounce. Last thing I'm going to touch on is the timing element. Now, our peak that we had was way up back in early November 2021. So we've been in this correction for what, 2 months? Yeah, something like that, a little over 2 months. I'm thinking we're done with this correction so far. So if our first wave took 2 months, second wave may take the same amount of time, may take a little less time. So we may have several more weeks, maybe a month or two before we finish topping here. And if history is any indication, some of these crashes last many months. Our big crash off of the 2018 high, that took what, nearly a damn near a year to finish that. And if you look at the bigger picture, possibly even longer than that. So be patient, no panic moves here. Again, we have a chance to make a nice graceful exit if you are worried about losing profit, anything like that. But again, parameters are very clearly set. If we do turn around and go bearish, if we break clearly down to that 2,900 mark, I'm getting out. That's what I'm doing. So if you don't want to miss any warnings, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll put out updates and answer any questions you guys have. And if you enjoyed my video, don't forget to give me a like. Till next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.